everyone. Welcome to the SF36 Bootcamp in advance of the Screen Forever conference and market kicking off on the 28th of March. I would like to introduce Wendy Gray, who's the Head of Industry and Alumni Engagement at AFTRS. And AFTRS are co-presenting this bootcamp with us here today with SPA. And also on the line, so to speak, is Jess. I can never say your last name, Jess.
Giaco.
I didn't want to say it because I knew you'd give me a dirty look if I did. I didn't want to get it wrong. So Jess is responsible for the program that was launched yesterday for Screen Forever, so she'll chat to us about that soon. But I'm just going to throw to Wendy quickly first of all.
Hi everyone, and thanks so much for joining us. Hopefully you'll find this session useful, and it's hopefully going to be very practical about how you prepare for Screen Forever later in the month. Before we kick off, I would just like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land that I'm on. I'm actually at AFTRS in the school today. As many of you would know, we have some fantastic black and white artwork, which is there on the side of the building, which is part of our acknowledgement of the wonderful contribution that all the wonderful Indigenous students and staff and practitioners who've been through the doors of AFTRS over the almost 50 years that we've been going have made to our school. And also an acknowledgement of the fantastic 60,000 years history of storytelling that there has been from our First Nations people. So really want to pay my respects to any Aboriginal and Torres Strait Island people who may be joining us today. I'm so glad that you can. And I'd also like to pay my respects to the elders past, present and emerging of the people whose land we're on right now, which is the Bidjigal and Gadigal people of the Eora Nation. So over to you, Michelle, and I'll be talking to you all again later on. I might go off camera if it might now. Yeah, okay.
No worries. Thank you, Wendy. And I just wanted to let everyone know that Brad Taylor from SPA, who I'm sure most of you know, is also here on the call. If you want to give us a little wave, Brad, he will moderate some of your questions as they come in on the chat. Please feel free just to pop your questions up. Hey, Brad, welcome. Just feel free to pop your questions in the chat. We will do, basically we're going to kick off with Jess talking us through the program that went live yesterday and just some tips and tricks around navigating the conference centre and all the different rooms and the different content as well, and when it kicks off, and also the social events, which are very important, of course. And then I'll do an overview of the SPA Connect market. And then Wendy will jump back in and do some tips and tricks on the ground, as well as some preparation and post-conference follow-up. And then in between, after we each speak, I think there'll be an opportunity for questions. Brad, I'll leave you to decide if there's some pertinent questions that should be answered as we go as well. Feel free to interrupt if so. And then Bridget Callow-Wright, who's Senior Development Executive and Executive Producer at Jungle Entertainment, will be joining Wendy for a little chat about her personal experiences on the ground at many Screen Forevers and international markets in the past. So I think that's basically the next 2 hours. And I think with no further ado, we should throw to Jess, who will talk to us about the program. Thanks, Jess.
Thank you, Michelle. So hi, everyone. Yes, I'm Jessica Giaco, the Screen Forever programmer. So welcome to Bootcamp. And look, there's so much to navigate at Screen Forever. So I think this will give you a little bit of an idea of exactly what to expect when you get on the ground, because we have 55 sessions now in total, and they're spread across 4 rooms. So how do you even get your head around that? How do you know what to go to? Where do I go? What do I do? Plus, you've got the market happening at the same time. So there's a lot going on. And for those who've never been to Screen Forever before, it can be really overwhelming. Even for those who have been before, it's a lot. So what I thought I would do is just share my screen and I'll show you the program. and just show you a little bit about how you can figure out what's, have a look at each session and just navigate the website a little bit as well. So I'll just share my screen. So just checking that that's all good, we can all see. So as you can see, this is the Screen Forever website. This is the home. So, sorry, so I accidentally muted myself. So this is the home. So you'll see here, this is what we've got happening on the home screen at Screen Forever. And if you pop up to the little purple thingy on the right up there, you can see everywhere that you can look within the way to navigate the website there. So essentially, I look after the program. So this is where the program lives. And then also what you can do is you can sign in here where it says sign in. It will take you to where you can sign in, and you can add to, once you've registered, you can log in here, and then you can start adding sessions to your event hub, and you can also RSVP for social events as well. So I'll just go back to the home screen and just show you the program. So you can see there's program and social events here. So the program, there's a lot going on in the program. As you can see, there's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. They're the 3 days when the program runs, and then Screen, which Michelle will get into a little bit further. So once you get on the ground on the Monday, you check in. 10:30 to 1, you start checking in, make sure you get your tags, you get your delegate bag, you can find out, get your placement among the venue. It's all at the Star Casino on Broadbeach. And you can find out, everywhere you need to go, and where the lawn is, where a lot of the, morning tea, lunch, things like that are happening. So it's a good idea to get your bearings once you arrive there on the ground. And then the official opening will kick off from 12:30. So on the day, we're in one big room, which is the plenary room. So the huge room is where everything will take place on day one. And that's from the opening to the ABC Q&A session. If you have a click here, you can see that this is a really big agenda setting session for the conference, which we always run on day one. You can have a look at the description, and you can see all the speakers there and who's actually speaking on the session. So this is one of our key sessions at conference. So I really recommend attending this one. It'll be hugely interesting. You'll get a lot of information out of it, and it will also feed into a lot of sessions coming up over the next 2 days. So you can see, I won't talk you through every single session, but you can see there's, the afternoon tea break. If you do click on, that's part of the social events. You can see that that's taking place in the Event Centre Gallery. We will have a map on here as well, so you'll be able to navigate, and you'll also receive a map when you arrive at registration. And you'll be able to navigate where to go in the conference centre as well. So this is all on day one. So we have keynotes, we have a pitch from the Pollies, the Hector Crawford, and then we kick off the evening with the Welcome Barbecue, Netflix opening night drinks. Now, these social events, it's really important to register for them because we do have capacities, we have COVID capacities. We're hoping to expand those capacities a little bit. We have a little bit more already, but these are getting, as it says here, if you wish to attend, please join the wait list. So this one's already been reached capacity. So it's a good idea to get in really quickly and start RSVPing for these. So just go back. So then we have the Netflix opening night drinks and the nightcap. So day 2, Tuesday, is when the conference kicks off in full force, and that big room that you were in on day 1, that will now be split into 2 rooms. So there'll be 2 long rooms, plus there will be 2 additional rooms where there are sessions running out of, which are slightly smaller than the 2 main rooms. So we can see here, if I'm not confusing you already, each of these rooms have names. So for example, the Lowdown with Graham Mason. This is in the Gold Coast room. So that's in the Gold Coast room. So just to be a bit more clear on that, the location name is the Event Centre, and then the room. And that makes a little bit more sense. One sec. So day 2. For example, the featured documentary, Event Centre Surface Paradise. So you can see that that one is Surface Paradise room. So that's how you'll be able to navigate yourself a little bit. And then, oops, it keeps taking you back to day one, go back to day two. So yeah, so you can work your way through the program. There'll be 4 sessions running at any one time. So concurrently, you'll have 4 sessions going to choose from. They're all slightly staggered. So you can, you know, if you're not enjoying one, you could pop into another. Ideally, you would stay in the whole session. But look, I understand if, you know, you feel like there's something better happening in another room. And I think that's the really great thing with the program as well, is there's a lot of competing sessions. So just to point out, I mean, in terms of tips for some of the great sessions, if you're looking for sessions about writers, we have, you know, all of the content showcases include writers, creators of the shows. So Upright, Love Me, all of them have the creatives behind it. We have In Conversation with Kerry Aaron, who was the showrunner and creator, writer behind Morning Wars. She'll be in person, which will be really exciting. Then we have The Buck Stops Where is very much about EPs, showrunners, writers, producers, who basically owns the risk. I won't go into too many. But yeah, so that's day 2. And then on day 2 as well, in terms of social events, just scrolling down the bottom, we have the City of Gold Coast Sunset Cocktail Hour. And you can see that that's taking place on the Garden Events lawn there. And then I'll just do a quick squiz through day 3, and then I'll hand you back to Michelle. So day 3, it's a similar thing again, similar setup. You've got the 4 rooms running. You've got sessions running in each of the rooms. It's a good idea to add these to your event hub. You've got, in the afternoon as well, you've got your pre-awards red carpet and canapes, your SPAR awards, and your Prime Video Gala party. So the SPAR Awards is held in the Star Theatre. So just make sure you check the correct venue there and make sure you register and add it to your agenda. I think that might be everything for now. Yeah, I'll stop sharing.
Thanks so much, Jess. I think it'll be great, guys, if you have any questions on the program to shoot them through. I think now is a really good time. You know, no question's a dumb question, just ask away. That's what we're here for. I do have one there that I can see, Brad. I'll just shout out because we've only got one so far. If you have an all access pass, are you automatically registered for events, or do you have to register additionally? Jess, will I let you answer that?
That's a very good question. I believe you still have to register in terms of COVID capacities. So because we do need to keep an eye on the numbers in the room. So yes, you do still need to register. It just means that you can register. Yeah.
Great. And you'll see that some of them, as Jess mentioned, are already booked out, but you can put yourself on the wait list as well. So straight after this, if you haven't booked your social events, please do go ahead and do so. Thank you. Getting an emergency dropout in case the rain knocks out the Wi-Fi. Thank you. So, all right, well, that's no more questions at the moment. So I think maybe I'll just jump on in and start talking about, oh, here we go. How do you know if you've successfully registered for the social events? It will be added to the event hub, I believe.
Yes.
Amy, I know you're hiding behind that SPAR logo, but is it correct that they will appear? Oh, there you go. It will appear on your agenda. Perfect.
You'll also receive an email notification to say you've moved from waitlist to confirmed. So hi guys, for those I haven't met before, my name's Amy Lindorf. I am production coordinator for Screen Forever and managing the online platform as well as the app. So if you have any SWOGO questions, chances are I'll be responding to you.
Thank you, Amy. Yes, Amy Lindorf, amazing. Basically, whenever Jess and I go silent and look at each other, that's the cue for Amy to jump in because she has the answers to absolutely everything.
She does.
Okay, one final question on events before we let you go, Amy. How do you know if you're still on a wait list for a social event?
It will tell you. So if you are listed as on the wait list, you'll be able to go through in your event hub. So that might be an opportunity for me to just run through the event hub and how to sign in after you've registered very quickly.
That would be great.
Please hold while I remember how to share my screen. There we go. Here we go. All right. So yes, that's a problem with my microphone, Alexis. Thank you. The event hub is basically your online access point for everything to do with what you've signed up with, all of your bio, your headshot, everything can be edited from the event hub. It's not live at the moment, but well, it's not activated at the moment, sorry, rephrase, but you are able to see it if you sign in. And that's a big point of difference. Instead of going to the registration part here where it says register, once you have registered and you have a confirmed registration, jump down to sign in. You can see it there at caps lock. And just below it, you can see the event hub. So once you've signed in, which I will demonstrate for you now.
So much pressure. I can never type when people are watching me.
There we go. All right. So you can see when you are signed in, it'll punch you through to the agenda to add items. This is actually part of the registration form. So don't be put off by that. Every time you want to modify your agenda, you do need to go back into the registration form, but the program will do that for you. You don't have to navigate it, but just don't be alarmed when you see yourself in somewhere that you've already been. Once you've seen that agenda and you've modified it however you like, punch through to the confirmation. But if you want to see everything that you've registered for in one central place, you can click on Event Hub and it will show everything that you've registered for. If you want to change that, click on Modify Registration and it'll push you back through to the registration form that we've just seen, to Agenda and then Social Events and then Confirmation. Once the industry market goes live on the 10th of March, you'll be able to also see the domestic market opportunities and the global market opportunities. If you click on them now, it'll just give you the overall view of what's coming. It won't let you book anything at this stage. You'll have to go through the registration agenda to book into those sessions once they're made live. You can also see here that there will be a full downloadable program. So if you're more analog than digital, you'll be able to download a program that you can carry with you. You'll also be able to access the app and see it from there. And we also have this handy frequently asked questions page that will help you navigate not only the program, but also the online platform, as you can see here. And then further down, all those fantastic questions that we asked you about your experience and what you wanted to see from Screen Forever. Here's your music playlist. Here's a delegate chat page. And further down, you'll be able to click through to the event photos and support networks as well. So that's the event hub. That'll be a bit more relevant once the full program's released along with the industry market, but that gives you a very quick overview of what you'll be able to see once that's made public.
Fabulous. Thank you, Amy. One more question here. If someone is registered for you, i.e. 3 people under their email, how do you register your own email?
So even if they've registered 3 people, they still have to put in individual emails for each person as part of the group. So you are still able to log in using whatever email that they've allocated to you for your profile. Every profile within the program has its unique email. So what I'd recommend is hit that person up, find out what they've called you, and then go to the sign-in page, not the registration page, the sign-in page, and reset your password. And then you'll be able to modify your agenda. You'll be able to book into pitch meetings and the co-production forums at any time individually. So it doesn't have to be part of the group. It can be, but you can do it on your own as well.
Fabulous. Now, Jess is going to disappear to go and continue working on the fabulous program. So if you just hang on for 3 or 5 minutes, Jess, we'll just see if any final questions on the program, the room, social events comes in. I'll just ask a few more questions while we're waiting for those to come in, if there are any final questions. So Susan Austin, a question on event photos. Are we permitted to take photos in most locations? I'd say
yeah, as far as I know, there's no issue with taking photos in locations. I mean, I would suggest probably not using a flash during sessions, but yeah, there's no problem there.
Great. Are all the events pretty close to back-to-back booking. Oh, pretty close. Yes, sorry. So this question from David. Hello, David from Perth, I believe, is about the location. Yes, most of the events are close. And if they're not, we will have allocated time for Ubers or taxis or a short walk. But the great thing is, especially if you're staying at the Star, everything is there. Pretty much, except for, Jess, is there one event off site this year or not?
Everything is on site, everything. So you can literally walk next door into another session, and then you can walk out onto the lawn for drinks. Then you can walk. I think the theatre for the awards night is maybe 10 minutes walk, but it's still in the same, it's all in the same complex. Yeah. So all you would really need to leave the Star for is maybe if you want to have drinks or dinner off site or go to the beach or something like that. But in terms of conference, it's all in one place. I just wanted to address, there is one other question, something I didn't mention, from Alexis saying, are any of the sessions recorded and available later for attendees? So yes. So the big 3 rooms we are actually broadcasting out of, so they will be recorded and then they will be being broadcast live onto our virtual platform. And then they'll also be recorded and available after conference up on our SWIGO website. So, and that is in the 3 big rooms. Yes, so that's correct. Plus there are a few pre-recorded sessions, which for various reasons they have had to be pre-recorded. So those will be available during conference as well on the website, and you'll also be able to view them in one of the rooms during conference as well.
Excellent. All right. It looks like we don't have any more questions in the chat for you, Jess. So thank you very much for your time. And how long will the recordings be available for?
At this stage, indefinitely. So I can't give you a correct answer on that. I think last conference they were available for 90 days, but I'm not too sure at this stage. Sorry, I can't answer that one right now.
But if they are on for a shortened period, we will provide comms.
Yes, we will certainly let you know about that. Yeah.
Great. All right. Well, thanks, Jess. I'll jump in and share my screen now. Just back to the website. Thanks.
See you there. See you there, folks.
Okay, so let's see here. Right. Just see. Amy, can you just confirm that everyone can see my screen there?
Yes, they can. Excellent,
thank you. In fact, oh no, that's okay. All right. So I'm going to talk a little bit about market, and then we'll get back to some questions afterwards. So Spa Connect market is a really big part of the conference. I think it's getting bigger and bigger. Something that we learned from last year and having to go virtual was that it actually gave us a lot of opportunity to bring in global hosts that we wouldn't have been able to should we have just been on the ground. I don't know if you, you wouldn't have, because most of you haven't been before, but in the past, I think we've only had a handful of internationals fly in. So I think it's really given us an opportunity, one positive thing potentially to come out of COVID, to really ramp up the international side. So as such, we have split the Spa Connect market into the domestic market and the global market. So the domestic market will be taking place live, in person, on the Gold Coast, and that's the only way to access it, by actually being there on the ground. It will run for 2 full days. The Spa Connect market doesn't run on the Monday. The focus on that day is really the introductions, the welcomes, the initial program, getting your bearings, and then the opening night party. And then Tuesday and Wednesday from 9 until about 5:30, both of those days, the market will run back to back, just with breaks for morning tea, afternoon tea, and lunch. And it will be held in the Event Centre marquee. So the whole marquee will be dedicated to Spa Connect meetings. The global part of the market will take place from midday Thursday, the 31st, to midday Friday, the 1st. So we're literally going around the world in 24 hours, taking a break between 10 p.m. and 8 a.m. for some naps. But we're starting in New Zealand on the Thursday, and then we'll head over to Europe and then the UK. We'll wrap up in the UK at 10 p.m. And then the next morning we'll start in Canada and the East Coast of the USA, so primarily New York. And then we'll head over to LA to finish off the global market. So we've basically done it essentially via time zone as opposed to category or market strand, because otherwise you'd need to be revisiting the same time zones across a number of days. So in order to sort of do it all in 24 hours, we've packed it all in. So there'll be a big announcement tomorrow or Friday, and the Spark Connect pages will go live on the website. And when they do, you will be able to see all the hosts that are attending. Well, I'd say tomorrow, 95% of the hosts that are attending, and by close of business Tuesday, all of the hosts that are attending. And then at midday Sydney time, so Australian Eastern Daylight Time on Thursday next week, which is the 10th of March, Spark Connect bookings will be open. This is a really important date and time to have in your calendar, because they do book out very fast, and it is first in, first served, and the bookings are capped. So each delegate can have a number of meetings within each strand. In total, when the bookings open, you could book yourself into 12 meetings in total, but I'll break those down in a minute as to which strands you can have. So it's basically 2 meetings per strand, but I'll go through it in more detail in a minute. But it's really important to do your research over the next, well, really from tomorrow afternoon through until, the 7 days until they open on Thursday afternoon next week, to do your research about who's coming, who's right for your projects, and who do you want to meet with, ideally, and then go for those first. I personally would probably have my tier 1, my tier 2, and my tier 3 meetings. So then if you miss out on your tier 1 and tier 2, you've still got a backup. And we've got a lot. I've brought in a lot of people. I think I don't have the exact numbers, so don't quote me on it, but I believe it's over 3,000 individual meeting spots. So, if you don't get your number 1 meeting, you should certainly still get to meet with people that will be valuable to you and your projects. Also, you can book one-on-one. Sorry, I had a memory blank there. You can book one-on-one meetings, which I think Amy might be able to talk to after. I'm not sure yet. But that's either, you may already have their email addresses. You may be able to find their email addresses. You may just drop them an email and say, hey, I saw on the website that you're attending Screen Forever. I'd love to book in a 20-minute meeting. I would always advise 20 minutes. That's sort of a standard meeting slot for markets, because you just need to get through as many as you can, and so do the hosts. And then just, obviously allocate, once you've got there on the Monday and got your bearings, figure out where you think the best place to meet people is, so you can make that really clear, so you don't waste 5 minutes of your meeting time trying to find them. So I just want to walk through, well, let's just see if there's any questions first, and then I'll walk through the individual strands. Yes, so I've just answered your question, Jane, regarding, yes, you will know before the 10th of March who is hosting what. That will be launched tomorrow. Just revisit the website tomorrow afternoon, and they will be up there. That's a question for Amy. We'll come back to that one. Where do most early career delegates choose to stay? We'll come back to that one as well. Brad, you might have an answer to that one later. Let's go through this now, because as I go through, I might answer some of the specific market questions, and then we can come back to the questions in the chat. So on the website, if you go to the menu, so you click on the top right to find the menu, and down the left, you'll see Spark Connect. Now at the moment, it's only broken into Spark Connect, which is the master overall, and then domestic market and global market. Once the Spark Connect pages go live, that will be broken down into each individual strand. So you'll be able to go to domestic market, and underneath that, you'll see marketplace roundtables, ready, steady, pitch, industry roundtables, publishers pitch and market. And then under the global market, you'll see the similar menu. However, anything that's global will have global written in front of it, so you can differentiate between what's a domestic ready steady pitch and what's a global ready steady pitch, for example. So I'll just click on the main page now. So you can see here the Spark Connect page. Bookings open 11 a.m. AEST, 12 p.m. AEDT, next Thursday, 10th of March. So we'll start on the domestic on the ground, and then we might have a little break, and then we can talk about the global. So domestic market, 28 to 30. As I mentioned, we're not running any official market activity on the 28th, just the 29th and the 30th, the Tuesday and the Wednesday, from 9 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. So we'll start with the marketplace roundtables. I'm going to explain them as if you've never been on one before, because I'm assuming most of you here haven't. So basically the marketplace roundtables are a banquet, like a dinner table, a banquet round that you would sit for a ball or an award ceremony, and it seats 10 people around the table. There'll be one host on each table and 9 delegates. So there's 9 spots for each marketplace roundtable. Most of the hosts are doing 2 each, so that means there'll be 18 spots. So you can see how tight it is in terms of each individual. Fortunately, most buyers, like say Foxtel Group, have 3 buyers coming along, 3 individual commissioners, I should say. ABC has, I think, about 8 individual commissioners across kids and factual, documentary, scripted. So even if you have a targeted person that you want to meet with, if you can't meet with them, it's a good idea to jump on somebody else's round table. If there's, say, 2 people from scripted, jump on the other person's round table. So they run for 25 minutes each. And each marketplace roundtable has a topic. They're not up on the website yet, but they will be from tomorrow. And it's basically a discussion topic. So it might be, I don't have any in front of me at the moment, but the changing face of international distribution for TV series, or it might be as simple as what we're looking for, or what makes a Stan original, or what makes a Netflix show successful. So it just gives a starting point for the discussion. And initially the host will introduce themselves, tell you about their organization and their role there, and then they will throw it open to questions. So this really is a Q&A, and it's so important before you go in that you have questions lined up. Feel free to ask as many as you want. If somebody else, if the other 8 people at the round table aren't prepared and don't have questions, fine, obviously give space around the table. That's really important. Don't take over the whole conversation. But if nobody's jumping in and there's a quiet spot, feel free to jump in. This is your time to get as much knowledge and intel out of these people as possible. Really, really, really importantly, do not pitch at a marketplace roundtable, and do not ask specific questions that is only relevant to your project, because that will obviously waste other people's times, and the answers won't necessarily be relevant to anyone else around the table. You will have opportunities to pitch via the official Ready Steady pitch. The roundtable is not the place to do it. Brad, you have your hand up.
Yeah, thanks, Michelle. Look, the other thing that I would say is that Screen Forever is about education as much as it is about business. So if there's a roundtable available run by somebody that, say, a lawyer or finance people or whatever, that you're a bit short on information on and need to expand how those systems work and the sort of people you need to talk to about certain things, don't discount them. You know, it's not all about business going from you to somebody else. It's also about people advising you. So take advantage of those experts on those roundtables and select them as appropriate. I think that's probably the only thing I would add to that, Mish. We know from previous Screen Forevers that people have got a lot out of those sorts of areas that they don't know much about.
Absolutely. I found my lawyer, who has been my lawyer now for 12 years, at a spa fringe, which was like a baby spa in the old days. And, you know, there was only 2 people at the table, which for me was perfect because I just grilled her on everything I needed to know for half an hour. And then she became my lawyer. So very valuable. We'll get to those in a minute, actually, because they're a different sort of roundtable. These roundtables that I just talked about are called marketplace roundtables. And I've only brought in buyers. So that is very buyer focused, the marketplace roundtables. I may as well jump down here now to the industry roundtables, you can see here. So that is where we will bring in the lawyers, some post-production facilities, insurers, big questions on insurance with COVID right now, so have them ready to go. Financiers like Fulcrum, accountants. So if you're in need of a lawyer or an accountant or a financier, definitely go along. You can essentially get a feel for what they're like. And obviously a lot of these aren't necessarily in your own city or state. So it's a great opportunity because your lawyer doesn't, my lawyer's in Melbourne, your lawyer doesn't have to be in the city that you live in. And I think also use that as an opportunity to ask questions and also just to get to know the services that they provide as well. So if you've got a burning question about COVID insurance, then, you know, our insurers will be primed to answer those questions for you. And it will, you know, might even save you an hour lawyer fee of $400 or whatever it is by asking a couple of questions. Again, you know, as long as you're not taking over the table and as long as it's sort of generic enough that other people will learn from the answer, which a lot of these things are, that's absolutely fine to ask sort of unique questions. So that's the roundtables, the two different sets of roundtables. Now each of those are capped at 2 meetings each. So you can have 2 marketplace roundtables, 2 industry roundtables. Now, in terms of the caps, if they haven't sold out or booked out a week before conference, we will send comms around saying 2nd round release bookings, go for gold. So it's definitely worth looking because even though they might not have originally been on your list, you might find that, you know, the featured documentary that you've had in your bottom drawer for ages, you know, you might decide to meet with somebody on the doco space, even though you were thinking you were just going to focus on your scripted projects. Who knows? I mean, anything you could, I figure any knowledge or intel you can gather, you know, often comes in useful, not immediately, maybe 2 years down the track, who knows? And just on the website here, hopefully you can see my mouse where it says coming soon. Once we launch tomorrow afternoon, these pages, you'll be able to click on, that will change to learn more. And you can click on that button and that will take you through to all of the hosts. And you will see their headshot and their name and title. And then you can click through and you can read their bio. And they will also have the roundtable discussion topic included on that page under their bio. And there will also be a brief, a ready steady pitch brief on that page as well. They won't all be up immediately, but if you keep popping back, you'll see that as we get them in, we'll be adding them on. So that will help you to decide which tables and pitch meetings are most pertinent to you. Next market strand is the ready steady pitch. So this is something that SPA has been doing for many years and it's very successful. There's quite a strict format, which I'm going to talk you through now. So it's basically 10-minute opportunities to meet with buyers. Again, 100% buyers, all buyers. And the first 5 minutes is for you to pitch your project. So with this one, you need to be really prepared. You need to go in with a concise, timed 5-minute pitch in a perfect world. And then a bell will ring or an MC will announce that you have 30 seconds of your pitch left. And then it's not change over time, but it's now time for feedback time. So the host will then use that 5 minutes to give you feedback. Now that might be, look, we think it's a wonderful project, it's just not right for us, or look, we're just not commissioning sci-fi at the moment. However, here's some thoughts. So it's a chance to not just try and sell your project. Obviously, a perfect outcome would be for a buyer to say, oh my God, it's exactly what I've been looking for. Send through the materials immediately. We're going to go into development. That would be amazing. And that may happen. But if not, even if it's a pass or it's not quite right, you can use that 5 minutes to get feedback, which is fantastic. And all of these buyers are really, really open to giving notes and feedback. So I think really use that 10 minutes that you have with them, which is obviously not a lot of time. And again, at the 9 minutes and 30-second mark, the MC will say, okay, wrap it up, and then it'll be time to move on. Now, something really important about these ready steady pitches, I can't stress the importance of this. So they'll be held in the marquee, as I mentioned. All of the Spark Connect meetings are held in the marquee. And with the ready steady pitch, we'll ask you to arrive 20 minutes before your allocated time. There will be a check-in desk, and you'll need to queue up and check in and get your table number. And then there'll be plenty of lounge area to wait for 5 or 10 minutes if required. And then at the 10 minutes before your meeting time, you'll be asked by the MC to move into the official Spark Connect area, and you'll be able to take a seat at one of those empty round tables. Ideally, take a seat where you can see your table number, so you can literally, when the time comes, just jump up and move to your host. So we're going to do it it's going to be color coded because it's the simplest way, rather than round 2, round 7, table 8. So it'll be basically, you'll be round red, round green, round blue. So when you come in, we'll give you a colored card, and the MC will say, okay, everybody in the lounge area who is coming into the blue round, please move through into the Spark Connect waiting area and take a seat at the round table. So you'll just flag your blue card and you'll be led in through the bollards. You sit there and wait as quietly as possible, because we have to be really respectful that just, not so far away across the other side of the room are people pitching. So as much as possible, just use that 10 minutes to get inside your head, prepare yourself, do any practice pitches that you need to do inside your head, and really utilize that time just to ground yourself if you're a bit nervous, which is completely expected. We're all nervous before a pitch. So that's how it will run on the day. And then at the end, when the MC says, okay, 30 seconds to wrap up, blue team, blue round, please exit via the exit doors. Orange round, please come through. At that time, it's really important that you do get up and leave, so that you don't eat into the next delegate's time with their host. That's really, really important, because we want to ensure that you get as much time as possible. I mean, obviously they're back to back, so there's a little bit of changeover time. So, the more quickly you leave and the more quickly the next delegate moves through, the more time you'll get of that 10 minutes with your host. So that's, Brad, are there any questions on round tables or ready steady pitch yet in the
Yeah, I've just been answering a few. I think probably the main one, well, there's two. There was one question on watching other people's pitches, which I think I've made pretty clear that, there's privacy issues involved with that. And nobody wants anybody else looking over their shoulder, really. Yeah. Also IP, I should mention. I think, look, Keaton's question is really good about what sort of materials, if you should take materials to the pitch session, and how best to handle that. So we're sort of talking either hard copy or a little Bible on a laptop or something, or an iPad or something. So what do you reckon?
So I think it's completely fine to have your laptop or your iPad ideally and flick through some visual material. I would highly recommend, when you're doing any kind of presentation like that, when you're talking at the same time, it's pictures, it's not words, because the last thing you want is for them to be trying to read and listen at the same time. It's incredibly distracting. Okay. Probably, most people have their own headphones. So if you did want to have like a 1 minute reel or a 2 minute reel at the beginning, remember that cuts into your actual pitch time. But if there's something that you think is really important that they need to see, then I would, then you could certainly play it on your iPad, but of course it might eat into time, because you need to make sure that their earphones are Bluetooth, because we don't want to be sharing earphones. So their earphones are Bluetooth to your iPad or laptop. So just have a think about that. You could always send it through later. In terms of hard copies, look, in the old days, God, I sound old. In the old days, back at Cairn, we all used to take at least a double-sided, it used to be called a slick, I think it was like an A4 poster double-sided. But, nobody wants we want to save the environment and not be handing out a lot of stuff that might end up in the bin, sadly. And B, people just don't want to carry it around all day. So it's definitely better. And Wendy, I'm cutting into your territory here. Wendy will talk about this soon in terms of what to take and when to follow up. But I would say no to hard copies, but have your materials, we can talk about this a bit later, what they actually are, ready to go as soon as the conference or the meeting is over. So if you get some traction, they don't have to wait 6 weeks to hear from you again. Really be ready with that material before the conference. And
preparation.
And if it's too early, don't pitch, because you only get one shot, right? You only get one shot at this. So if it's too early, don't pitch.
And sort of that leads on to William's question about how formal the pitches, or are they more conversational? Well, it's a bit of a mix. You know, they also want to know a little bit. They want to, person to person is about gauging each other as well. So, you know, you've got to bear that in mind. So while it is a formal pitch, you want to get everything across. Also, they want to sort of gauge you. Wouldn't you agree, Michelle?
I would. I mean, different styles of pitching across the world. In America, it's a lot more formal. So quite often, if you have a meeting, you have to go in and the executives, possibly a few of them, expect to hear from you for 5, 10, 15 minutes. But I've always found, in my experience, I just think it's a chat. And obviously this is more formal. So the first 5 minutes is more, you know, coming from you as opposed to the chat. But I just think, you know, keep it a little bit casual, use anecdotes, jump in and say, right, so I really want to, I saw, you know, that you're doing this show or whatever, or that you're looking for this, you know, I really want to chat to you about this project that I think could be up your alley. I always like to start with a bit of a one-liner. I mean, this isn't a pitch session, so it's really hard because there's a lot to talk about and the different options, but, you know, do something that suits your personality as well. If I think trying to remember lines is hard, and you know, I just think you need to know your story back to front. Have your 25-word, you know, pitch, and then after that, just talk to it. Maybe have some bullet points in your head, like the important things, whether it's cast or whether it's genre or whether it's a comparative show. But I did in the early days, I tried to learn and memorize, you know, 5 minutes of pitch, and it's too hard because you go, oh, hold on, I missed that bit. Oh shit, I should go back, and then you just get lost. Sorry, I just swore. So look, I think that's probably as deep as we can go into pitching right now. We might be able to pick up on it a bit later.
Just one more quick one. We've covered handouts, but both David and Keaton are asking about swapping contact details and business cards.
Business cards, look, I think they're still a thing, you know, get your business cards ready to go. Absolutely have them, swap them, take them, gather as many as you can. And
that's generally throughout the conference, isn't it, Michelle?
Yeah. Always have them in your pocket.
Yeah. So get some printed if you haven't already.
Yes, you've still got time. All right, I'm going to dive on through because I know that Bridget is joining us at 2. So I'll just stay on the domestic market for a minute, and then we'll flip to global. Okay, so there's 2 other big parts of the domestic. The domestic co-production forum, which we haven't done before, it used to be in the form of the Ready Steady Pitch, but I felt that these meetings were better off less formatted, less formal, and a little bit longer. So the domestic co-production forum is basically, I think we've got 24 of the finest production companies in Australia who are sending executives to meet with delegates. So each production company executive is doing 6 20-minute meetings. They'll be back to back. Again, they'll be held in the marquee. All the pitch meetings and meetings, by the way, are around cafe rounds. I know we used to have trestle tables, again, in the old days, but I felt that, you know, you need to be able to pitch anywhere. Quite often it is at a cafe, or it could be a boardroom, or it could be from your desk via Zoom. So I think just the more informal cafe rounds, they call it, but it'll probably be a square table with 4 seats. So just bear that in mind when you're thinking about whether you're going to sit across from them or beside them, depending if you're going to show materials or you have a laptop or whatever. But these domestic co-production forum meetings will be taking place around those square cafe tables. And it's basically an opportunity to spend it however you wish. You can pitch a project. perhaps you want to partner with Matchbox or talk to them about partnering because you need to either option your project or do a co-production with another production company to get traction. Quite often, when you're early career and even mid-career producers, you do need to partner. So that's an opportunity to meet with these production companies, either to talk about, as I said, a specific project. It might just be a meet and greet to say, hey, I really love your work. I've got a slate at early development, but I'd love to bring you projects in the future. What are you looking for? Blah, blah, blah. So it's really just to start to initiate relationships with these production companies that inevitably you're going to have to call on down the track in your career. And then the last part of we did have pitch on demand at SF36, but that's now closed, and a certain number have been selected to meet with SBS and ABC, which is great at the market. Finally, the publishers pitch and market. So this is happening on Wednesday morning at 9 a.m. 10 publishers and authors and possibly agents will be taking the stage to pitch to you their books, novels, manuscripts for adaptation purposes. So there'll be a variety from kids titles to YA titles to sci-fi titles, and they will all be pitched. Each publisher will have 5 minutes. They can either pitch verbally on stage and or share to the screen. And then afterwards, after you've heard all their pitches, you can make your way to the round tables. They'll each have their own round table, and they'll have their books and hopefully their catalogue with all of their titles available in it, set up, and all their business cards. 9 people at a time can join each table, so you can move quickly to get a spot with the publisher that you're interested in. And then they'll do another one immediately after, so 30 minutes later. So if you miss out on the publisher that you want to meet, you can either hang around or come back, or sit at another publisher roundtable while you're waiting for the next one to become available. If you've got to run out, do something else immediately afterwards, just grab a business card and ideally a catalogue and email them to book in a meeting that afternoon where you have a spare slot. If you think it might be of interest, once you see who the publishers are, and we'll also have a synopsis up on the website in advance of the book that they're pitching, then it might be worth just popping a little publishers meeting, blank meeting in your calendar and seeing if you can then meet with them, because they'll be around all Tuesday afternoon to do one-on-one meetings, but they'll only be there on the Tuesday. Of course, if you can't wrangle a meeting at Screen Forever, you can always reach out to them when we get back and arrange a phone call, a Zoom, or a meeting. So that's the domestic. I think I've just seen a question. Do publishers have a preference to partner with more experienced producers, or are they open to early career partnerships? Any tips? Again, I think it's worth just being transparent about where you're at and just letting them know that you will, of course, as required, partner with an established production company if required, because that's always that always gives them comfort. And of course, realistically, if you're going to bid on a book, you might already want a production company in place. It really depends. I mean, some books there's bidding wars for. Some have been sitting on the shelf for a little while, and the author will be stoked to have an interested producer. Normally the author might want to meet with you in advance as well to get a feel, and I think it would make sense for you to meet with them as well. Obviously later down the track. This is more initially just to meet with the publisher, and if you love the book, just start the conversation and see where it takes you. I am going to flip to global now because I know that we're running out of time. So very similar, except the global market is virtual, all online, as I said, from midday Thursday the 31st to midday on Friday the 1st. We have exactly the same format duplicated, so I don't need to go through it all again. So we'll have global marketplace roundtables, which are basically the same as the in-person, except instead of being around a banquet table live in person, you'll be on a Zoom meeting and you'll have 9 other delegates plus 1 or 2 hosts. So there'll be 10 spots available for each global marketplace roundtable. And most of them are doing one roundtable each. Sometimes organisations like Warner Media, for example, might have 2 execs coming, one for kids animation, one for kids live action, and one for scripted, for example. Global Ready Steady Pitch, again, is the same, except it will be online via Swigo, via our website, and Amy might talk to that a little bit in a minute as to exactly how that will work on the day. But something that I really want to make clear is that it is 10 minutes. You won't have a bell ringing, you won't have an MC, you won't have a moderator. So you really need to look after your own timekeeping. So when it's, maybe have your phone set with your timer, and when it hits, getting close to 5 minutes, then wrap up your pitch and throw to the host to give you feedback. Obviously, it's very open. If it's not that formal, it doesn't matter, but that's the way that we've pitched it to the hosts, and that's what they'll be expecting. So it's really good to stick to that. The other really big thing to say is have an alarm set, potentially quietly maybe, or something that you can see that will tell you when you've only got 30 seconds to go, because the meeting will automatically end. It's not like you can just stay and chat, because that host will then be going directly onto another meeting. So in order to just give yourself enough time to wrap up and talk next steps, really, once it hits that 9-minute mark, I'd be sort of starting to wrap up. In a perfect world, you want to be able to end the meeting yourself before it drops out, because it's much less abrupt. So really use that last 60 seconds to figure out next steps, i.e., can I just grab your email if you don't already have it, so that I can drop you an email if they've asked for further materials. Obviously, if they haven't requested any further materials, there's no need to get their email address. Most of them will be willing to give it out, but it's really important, if you want their email address, you try and grab it in that 10-minute slot. And then the Global Co-Production Forum, again, is the same as the Co-Production Forum on the ground here. However, we will have production companies from the UK, Ireland, probably a couple from France and Germany, probably a couple from New Zealand, and a couple from Canada as well, and a couple from the US. So at least 1 or 2, I would think, from each of the key territories, primarily English-speaking territories apart from Europe. So you can again book those meetings. They're 20 minutes, exactly the same as the domestic co-production forum. And of course, they'll just be done on Zoom instead. Again, it might be an opportunity. You might have a show that has a Canadian lead, but it's set here in Australia. So it's a great opportunity to meet with a Canadian production company, talk to them about the opportunities to film in Canada, the tax offsets. Are they introduced? Well, obviously they're interested in doing co-productions because they've joined the market. Find out exactly what they're looking for and how it could potentially work. So again, that's and again, if you don't have a project, you could just say, look, I'm really interested in Canada and the work that comes out of there. When I have a project down the track, can I bring it to you? So that's, again, really open to how you want to spend that 20 minutes. That's all I can think of right now. Brad, before Wendy and Bridget kick off, are there any questions pertaining specifically to the market at this point that we should answer?
Yeah, look, I think I've got through most of them while you've been giving that wonderful rundown. Just let me see. Okay, that's Pooban asks, as part of the market, the suppliers and facilities people, how they make the most of this conference. Well, I think I can probably answer that. SPA is an all-encompassing organisation. While we look after producers in the main, many of our members are services and facilities members who without their support and without their expertise, productions wouldn't get made. They love coming to Screen Forever. They love meeting new people. They love seeing people developing their careers, and they're always interested in helping people. So that's what they get out of it. Who else? Alexis with the Global CoPro. Can we discuss projects that we are needing help optioning? That's really part of the pitch, don't you think, Mish?
Yes, that projects that you want to option to a production company, or that you're looking for a production company to option,
Can
definitely.
we discuss projects that we're needing help optioning? Yes, that's what it's all about, basically. Yeah.
Because as a smaller producer or a production company, quite often, if you've got a couple of runs on the board, then you could probably do a co-production, ideally a 50-50 co-pro, but you may find that in the early days, you might need to option your project. Again, have a very good lawyer, because they will ensure that you get everything that you feel that you need to ensure the best relationship. And of course, if you option your project to a production company, it could be 2, 3, 4, 5 years. So make sure you really like them.
Okay, I think that's where we're up to with that. So, yeah.
So welcome to Bridget. I did a little intro to you when you weren't here earlier, but Bridget is from Jungle Entertainment. She is the senior, I haven't got it written down in front of me, so I'll see if I remember from yesterday, senior development executive and executive producer at Jungle Entertainment. Have I got that right?
Yeah, hi everyone, how you going? Yes.
Welcome. And then we have Wendy here as well, and I'm going to throw to them to talk to you about tips and tricks for making the most on the ground and post-conference, as well as a little bit of what to do before you get there. Thank you, ladies.
Okay, thank you. And I'm sure that your brains are all like completely full already, because there was so much information to take on it. And it is, if you haven't been to a big industry conference before, can be incredibly confusing. So it's really good to be prepared and do your homework before you go. But now is a chance. You're spending a lot of money on a ticket. You're probably spending money on travel. So you really want to make sure that you get your money's worth and make the most of it. So I'm just going to run through a few. I have a bit of a rant really about some of the things that I think I've seen, people stuff up in terms of their conference attendance, or not make the most of their opportunities, and also reflect on the early days when I used to go, some of the things that I found really confusing, or I didn't do and I should have done. And then I'm going to have a chat with Bridget, because Bridget not only is someone who's been to conferences like Screen Forever and formed some really great relationships, but she's also in the past been someone who's been the person that you might be pitching to, so she can give you a good perspective from both points of view. Bridget's not going to Screen Forever this year, so she's talking sort of more in principle rather than this specific year. Before we do, I'm just going to share my screen for a sec. You can see that. Bridget, give me a thumbs up. Can you see that? Yeah, great. Okay. So yeah, before, during, and after, it's super important that your before and after is it's almost as important as being there. So I just wanted to share some research with you that we've just done. We did a career pathways survey, and this was asking people in the industry a whole lot of questions about their careers, whether they thought they were successful, how they measured success, what were the things that had helped their career progression. And this is just one slide from a massive, massive, massive research report, which we'll be sharing. And I pulled it out because there's some interesting things in here. This question was, what were the most useful contributions to progressing your career path? So people could choose more than one. And the things that came up that were really key were all about really human connection. So a specific person, having a relationship with a specific person who mentored me or gave me a break, meeting a group of like-minded individuals and collaborating. A course I studied, we love seeing that. That was very important. And of course, shout out to the afters people who are watching this session, but also anybody who might be thinking of coming to afters at some stage. Jobs, obviously very important. First job I ever had. But then I just wanted to highlight here, contacts I made at a conference was right up there in terms of things that people attributed to their, successful career path. So I just wanted to share that with you, so that, just to kind of reiterate that this is a fantastic opportunity for you to not only learn about things in the industry, but meet a lot of people. And it is all about the peeps. So I've got some tips. So, okay, study the guest list. Closer to the day, you will be able to see not only information about everybody who is speaking, whether they're going to be hosting a round table, whether they are on a panel or, a public-facing visible industry person. You'll be able to see who they are. They'll have their photos on the site. There'll be bios of them. It will be all on there. Put some time aside to study it before you go. So if you don't know very many people in the industry, you will at least know who's going and vaguely what they look like. And identify some people you'd like to meet. It might be because you think that company makes great work, or you like a specific program that they've been creatively responsible for, or it might be someone who you are hoping you might eventually have some kind of working relationship with. And you want to know what they look like, right? So you want to make sure that you've looked at their photos. Do as much stalking as you can on the internet about people. Find out about them. Read articles in IF and Screen Hub so that you kind of understand their body of work and their background. Now, you might not get to meet everybody that you want to meet, like the president of Netflix and the CEO of Network 10 are not going to be meeting everybody at the conference, but most people are there to make connections and to network. And so, they know that they're there to meet people, and they generally are pretty happy to have a quick chat. But yeah, be realistic about who it is that you want to kind of like chat with. Have some actual outcomes planned for what you'd like to get from any of the meetings that you set up beforehand. And that might just be finding out a little bit more about what they're interested in pursuing in the future. Number two, the faces. The other thing is that I believe once you're on the app, I'm not sure whether it's on in the Event Hub as well, and Michelle might be able to clarify this. I do believe that you can see all the attendees' photos as well. So not the people who are presenting, but all the other attendees at the conference have the opportunity to upload their photo and put in some information about themselves, as you will have all done if you're registered. Michelle, do you know what's the maximum number of tickets sold? Right, do you know roughly?
I think we'll be around the sort of 800-ish mark.
Right, so that's a huge number of people, obviously, to remember and check out, but it's a good idea to have a flick through and just see who else is going, because you want to be able to do your research before you go as much as you can, and make some notes. It's really about homework and preparation at this stage of your careers and attendance at festivals. If there's someone specifically that you really want to meet, or a company that you really want to, showcase your work to in some way, I can't reiterate this enough. Make sure you watch what they have made. Now, the number one thing that people from television networks who come into the school to talk about pitching, talk about presenting your ideas to them, is that people will say to them, I don't watch TV. And that is your death knell. If you say that to anybody who works in television production, if you say, I don't watch TV, what are you doing there, really? So go on a bit of a binge for the next few weeks to make sure that you've watched what the people you want to eventually have a relationship with have made. So you've got some common things to talk about, and hopefully you can say, I really loved your series or your film or whatever it is. So now is a good excuse to do some binge watching. The event app. The event app will become available a week or so out before the event. Get really familiar with it. It's very, very useful in terms of keeping track of your programs, but also you can instant message other people, you can look up people's profiles. It's like having the website, but on a phone in your pocket, and super, super, super useful. I did notice in the chat that Susan put a tip, which I thought was a really lovely idea. Susan said that she printed out her own personal program. She sort of made a Word doc for herself, and some people might prefer Excel, whatever you float your boat, but sometimes it is good just to have your own bit of paper in your bag in case your phone dies or something happens, so that you have somewhere else to double check where you're meant to be at what time. Okay, next. Okay, so it's really important to think of yourself as a brand. You might be thinking mostly about the projects that you're developing or the things that you want to pitch, but it is an industry that's all about human relationships and about people. So before you go to SPA, pay some attention to your personal branding. If you have an IMDb listing, and if you don't, you should, go and have a look at it and make sure it's updated and correct. If you have a LinkedIn page, and if you are wanting to be a producer or have anything to do with the business side of our industry, you should have a LinkedIn page. Again, go and have a look at it, make sure it's up to date. Are your contact details on there? Is all the relevant information about what you've been doing lately on there? Is it on there? Make sure your photo is on your LinkedIn page. I can't tell you how many people in our industry have terrible LinkedIn pages. Often it's the people who are at senior levels and haven't had to really worry about it. But if you're, entering the industry, I guess we are becoming more professionalized and people are thinking a lot more about this stuff. So please, IMDb and LinkedIn at the very least. If you've got a website for your company, make sure it's current, make sure the links work, make sure there's information about the key people from your company on there. Make sure you've got contact details on the website. Honestly, I can't believe how many people's websites don't have that stuff on there. So there's no point in having it if it's not up to date and it's not useful, because it just makes you look really, slack and out of date. And finally, do be conscious of your social media profile, because if someone is thinking about maybe going into business with you, which is essentially what going into any sort of production relationship is, or employing you, they are going to Google you, okay? They're going to look everywhere on the internet for every reference there has ever been about you, and you want to make sure that what's on there is professional, and whatever image you want to have, that it's reflected in your social media profile. I would also say that any comments you put on about sessions and about the conference on Twitter, for example, or wherever, just be mindful that other people are reading them and they'll be able to identify you. So again, it's just thinking about your own personal brand. Now, you might want to have a brand of someone that's outrageous and controversial, and that's fine if that's the brand that you want to have, and make sure that all that stuff fits your brand. You might have a completely different image of how you want people to see you. Think about that before you go and attend to all this stuff. Obviously, things around documents that you're going to share, even though you might not be handing over bits of paper in pitch sessions, and as Michelle says, these days we do try and reduce the number of trees we've killed, and certainly don't want to be kind of handing over massive big pitch documents and things, but you do want to have it ready to go if someone is interested. You want to be able to give it to them by email or however you're going to send it to them pretty well straight away. So make sure before you go to the conference that it's ready. Don't be writing it the night before you leave for Screen Forever, so that you've got something that looks professional and reflects again your brand before you go, so it's ready to go. Please get someone else to proofread any document that you are going to send to anybody. I cannot tell you how many things I've seen, not just pitch documents, but job applications and everything that have terrible typos in them. And it's those things that instantly put you into the pile. It might seem like an insignificant thing, but you know, it's a very competitive industry. There are a lot of people trying to get noticed, trying to get money, trying to get, you know, screen minutes. So the more that you can do to make yourself look professional, do it. Obviously, also, you just want to make sure your contact details are on everything and you've got copyright information on there. Okay, now this is the one that a lot of people find really hard. Talking to strangers. You've got to be brave, okay? You have to go to all the networking events as much as you can. But you also have to treat the entire thing as a potential to meet new people and to network. So don't be afraid to say hello to strangers. I know that some people find this just like excruciating, and you've got to have to, if you're that sort of person, come up with a few, you know, opening lines. It sounds really dorky, but it's super useful in that situation so that you can talk to people at the conference. There's 800 people. You could have 800 new friends, you know, if you played your cards right. So obviously, like I said before, do you research about who's going to be there? What do they look like? What have they made? What company do they work for? And all that stuff. And think about, you know, how am I going to start a conversation with a complete stranger? Often it might be at the end of a session. You might just turn to someone and say, wow, that was really interesting. I loved it that they talked about this, you know, whatever. So just think about how you're going to start conversations with complete strangers, because you need to. And the other thing I just want to say, it's very important to go to the drinks, but don't drink too much. And people will remember you if you have, and not in a good way. And also, often it's very tempting if you've gone with somebody that you know, or if you've gone with a couple of, you know, people from your company or fellow students, you just hang around with them because they're the people you know and it's a bit of a safe space. It's good to have your safe space people to always go back to regroup, but don't just talk to those people. You know, make yourself a rule that every day you're going to talk to a few, you know, new people. Do be early. I would recommend, if this is your first conference, to be there early on Monday. Like, be one of the first people that turns up for registration. Get the pack, study the pack, get yourself all organized, walk around the venue so you know where everything is, and really make the most of your time so that you're not rushing around, you're not lost, you don't know where stuff is, you're late for meetings. Very bad look. I would really recommend that in between all the appointments you might have for roundtables and pitching and all that other really important networking stuff, do go to the sessions. The sessions are fantastic, and you will learn a great deal in the sessions. Plus, it gives you a chance to check out people on the panel who are the people you might later want to go up to afterwards and say, I saw your panel session. That was so interesting. Can I ask you a couple more questions about X, Y, and Z, whatever it was that they talked about in the panel? So it's really a good conversation starter going to the panels. But don't turn up late and loud and like make a lot of noise and have rattly bags and have your phone on. Like, you don't want to draw attention to yourself in that way. Think about yourself as a professional. Even if you don't kind of think of yourself as one yet, you want to give that impression. Okay. Pack well. So this is for everybody, but I am going to say this particularly to people who like to wear dresses, high heels, of whatever gender. Conference centres are always absolutely freezing. Please take a jacket and something warm, otherwise you'll be cold because the aircon is always cranked right up. Wear smart clothes. You really want to give a good impression, but you also need to be comfortable because they're long days. You will spend a lot of time, you know, you've got to walk around different parts of the venue. Don't wear really high heels unless you're super, super comfortable in them. You want to just give that, again, professional appearance. Take your phone charger, take some spare pens, you know, just be really, really super prepared, and get a good night's sleep the night before the first day. Okay. Be a good human. What this means really is that all those 800 people that you are going to be thinking about as your, you know, next best friends or your business partners or whatever, are all just people like us. So they all have good days and bad days. Probably most of them are a bit overworked. they're potentially a bit stressed. You know, they've got all sorts of other personal stuff going on outside of this work conference. So remember that. You know, not every conversation is a pitch to get a job or to get money out of them. Sometimes you just want to actually get to know someone a bit, find out about, you know, what floats their boat, so that in the future you might have a relationship with them that might be a work relationship. So, you know, try and do something nice for other people while you're at the conference, or let someone into the coffee queue, get them a coffee. Tell them, you know, where the toilets are. If someone's looking a bit lost, you know, they might need a bit of help and you know the answer, help them. So think about it as a collection of like-minded individuals who are all working together in a great industry, and they're, you know, all going to be best friends soon. Okay, follow up. This is the most important one, and then I'm going to hand over to Bridget. It's really important to follow up, okay? I can't tell you how many people tell me that they never hear again from people after things like this. It's such a waste of time to go, pitch, form relationships, meet people, and then not follow up. So after the conference, you need to follow up. If you've had a conversation with someone where there's been some sort of, you know, yeah, look me up later, or, oh, yeah, please send that to me later, or, oh, yeah, send us your CV and, you know, we'll contact you when we need someone to do whatever it is you're potentially able to do. Or if you've chatted about something like, you know, yeah, there's a great restaurant, you know, in the Gold Coast down there, if you want to go there later, follow up. It's really important. And, you know, if you've met someone that you really liked and you've got their contact details, but you've got nothing to sell them right now, it doesn't hurt to say, I really enjoyed meeting you at, you know, Screen Forever, and, you know, I look forward to seeing your next show come out, because it's actually just a polite way of being a nice person and acknowledging that they are a human being. And the other thing too is that you will learn a lot of stuff at the conference. You'll go to panels, you'll hear people talk, they'll talk about new shows that are coming out, they'll talk about initiatives that they're about to launch. So go home and do your homework before you forget what they all said. Look up what they were talking about, you know, and do some good industry learning. So that's the end of my rant. And now I'm going to hand it over to Bridget. So as Michelle said, Bridget is Senior Development Exec and EP at Jungle Entertainment. But she also has her own company, Midwinter Films, and she is an AFTRS alumni, and she also teaches some courses for us sometimes. So we love Bridget, and I'm really, really grateful, Bridget, that you've given us a little bit of your time now. I'm just going to stop that screen share. Bridget, I just wanted to see if you could just share, I guess, some conference experience that you've had and some things that for you have been really positive experiences.
Yeah, I have to say, first of all, Wendy, those are such hot tips. I wish that somebody had given me that rundown before my first conference. I had to learn that all the hard way, especially the comfortable shoes and it's always freezing and the follow-up. They're all fantastic. It's all 100% true. I guess, you know, Screen Forever for me, I probably, the only reason I should say that I possibly am not attending this year is that my daughter's been very unwell. I'm just sort of seeing whether she's well enough for me to leave her for the conference. Otherwise, I think I've been there pretty much most years. I think we worked it out at some stage, it was 7 or 9 conferences. And I do vividly remember my first 1 or 2 conferences really well, because like those who, you know, find it difficult to talk to strangers, who are more of an introvert, you know, that's absolutely what I felt like when I first started. But, you know, by going consistently, I've developed really long, in-depth relationships that have genuinely helped me build a business and, you know, and are helpful every day in the job that I've got now. I think you were looking for an example of where a deal was made. And I know that, you know, I've financed an independent feature film over that period. I've, you know, actually financed several projects over that period. And I know that there were conversations and particularly pitch meetings that did lead to deals out of the conference. I can't say honestly that there was one single pitch that I did and then the contract was sort of done next week. Because you end up sort of having, you know, numerous conversations and it's like which one of those actually sealed the deal. It's hard to remember. But there's certainly, pitching to the international financiers and that opportunity to be face to face in a room with them, particularly with the last couple of years that we've had, which in some ways is great because it means that they're, more willing to talk to you over Zoom, but that opportunity to actually, have face-to-face contact is really important. And so I think it's probably both the domestic broadcasters and the domestic financiers, but particularly those international people as well. As well as that is also that opportunity to be able to catch up with other producers from around the country. And those become, somebody said to me very early on that, finding your people is so critical. And so, those producers that you can ring up and say, hey, I've just struck this particular issue. Have you come across this before? What's it like up in WA at the moment? Or, how's crewing going up in Queensland? I've heard that it's pretty difficult right now. Or things like that. Those kind of relationships, I've definitely formed out of attending the conference. So that's
yeah, no, that's great. And you also said, because I guess we're talking generally about the idea of going to conferences, you said that you'd chosen to go to some international ones, and obviously that's something we haven't been able to do for the last couple of years, but you want to just talk about that as well?
Yeah, I certainly, I've been to several international markets, and it's a really expensive process. Even if you've been lucky enough to, I've had support from state bodies and I've had support from Screen Australia, and I'm really grateful for that. But even with that support, you still end up spending an awful lot of money. And I have to say, I've never regretted a single cent. I think it was, singularly those attendances at both international and domestic markets and conferences. It's where you build all of your business intel. And each time I come away, I just feel, so much more connected, so much more ready to do the work, so much, more in control of, what the hell am I doing? You come away and go, oh, there's lots of other people in this crazy business. I don't feel so alone as well. So yes, I've spent, particularly with the film markets over many years, that when I was sort of more in that business, and now looking at the TV markets as well.
So you probably aren't going this year, but let's just say hypothetically you were going.
I'm getting total FOMO as we're talking about it. So,
but let's just say hypothetically you were going, or let's talk hypothetically about a previous year, and you're there, you're representing Jungle, and there's lots of people who probably think they really would like to pitch, their idea to Jungle or to partner with Jungle on a project. What's some kind of advice you would give people who were thinking? I know at the moment your books are closed, so I'm not suggesting people should be pitching to Jungle. So we're just talking in hypothetical here. If you were, open to approaches or interested in new ideas and new partners, what's some advice you would give people, just generally, I guess, about how best to get you interested? And maybe what not to do.
Okay. I think the first thing is probably recovering some of the tips you gave. It's always very flattering and helpful and lovely when people have watched the work of Jungle and found something that they love. Because that sort of gives you as well. You always sort of tell people about the sensibility of Jungle. You talk about, where we're at as a company. But if they've come in having sort of understood our brand and our sensibility, particularly coming in having watched, what we've made within the previous year, some of the newer shows that have come through, then that is always a really helpful starting point. We just go, okay, they've seen some of the work, and I can sort of build on that and tell them what we're doing next and, what we've learned out of that experience. And what it means that, this means that we're looking for more of that, or we're actually moving on from, we're doing a lot more drama at the moment, for example, than what we've traditionally been known for as comedy. So, that's really helpful. I think also understanding as much as you can where the company is at, and reading, as much sort of info that we've made publicly available with, reasonably prolific, and there's several articles and lots of things and announcements. So it's always good to do that research, and that's always impressive when people come in and understand who's in the business, what we've been saying, all of those kinds of things. In terms of preparing your pitch materials, I would agree that, definitely don't come to the conference with materials to try and give to people, because you just end up with a pile of paper that you're carrying around all day, and then it's just a bit annoying, and it tends to get coffee spilt on it, or things happen. So absolutely, if you want to have a prop, and that sort of is something I certainly, when I first started, I found it really useful if I was pitching something that was particularly visual as well. Having a prop there with you is fine, particularly I'd have a couple, one sort of in your bag and one that you keep pristine, just in case something happens, and have that, but then also just immediately follow up with materials. That's always really helpful. Definitely put your efforts into that pitch document that you're going to send. So always it's great when we've got a script ready to read. If it's a TV show, if there's a pilot, that's always fantastic. But the first place we'll go after we've had that verbal pitch is that follow up with that pitch document, and that's where I think you really need to spend your time and energy making that as professional as you possibly can. Probably in terms of actually the verbal pitch, it's been really interesting actually over the last couple of years, because we've been doing a lot of Zoom pitches with international financiers, and the American market in particular got really used to us doing their more formal Zoom pitch, which is a very practiced pitch. So we were talking about this the other day, that now we have preparing to pitch sessions ourselves, where we will write up a pitch, and then we will practice it with each other, and then we'll give feedback and we'll rehearse it. And we're now getting to the level where those become the kind of expected standard. I wouldn't necessarily say if you don't feel comfortable with that, it's okay to have a conversation, but what you do need to have done is that elevator pitch of what it is. So I would never, it gets really boring when you're pitching the story beats. So try and get the essence of the story is really what we care about. It's not the story beats of this happens and then this happens and then this happens. It's this is a story about a family, but what it really is what it means to be family today or something. That's a terrible crap pitch. But if you can get to, this is what that is, this is what the tone is, and this is why I'm passionate about telling this story. I think probably every company is like this, but Jungle in particular is really led by a passion. And so, knowing where the passion comes from and why you're putting all your efforts into this story, what's ignited the fire for you, and knowing the potential pathway to market as much as you can, but it's also okay if you don't have all the answers. And it's also okay if you're a bit nervous. So, if you sort of, make a mistake in your pitch, it's not quite going away, it's fine to take a breath and say, hey, I'm sorry, this is, my first kind of time pitching this project. Nobody's going to judge you for that. And I've had plenty of people be nervous in pitches, and it hasn't affected that at all for me. I'm still there and I'm still listening, and, don't be put off if first few pitches don't go as well as you hope. Don't assume that that's kind of dead in the water. It's okay.
Yeah. But alternatively, I suppose, listen to the feedback and see if there's any common themes that you're getting in the feedback, because then that might mean you need to rethink a little bit, depending on who you're pitching to. You also need to be pitching to the companies that are the right fit for your project.
Yeah, absolutely. And sort of, making sure that that info is up to date. We, for example, Jungle, we no longer really are looking at short form projects at the moment. We've just got such a big long form slate, and so recently, we've been asking what do you want to pitch, what's the form, and if it's short form, they're saying, look, you're actually probably better pitching someone else, because we're just not looking at those projects right now.
Yeah, and there's a couple of questions in the chat about, I guess, what the right sort of format for a pitch document is. Should it just be, do you just send a one pager afterwards? What's the key to success with a pitch document? Any thoughts?
I guess it kind of depends on what stage it's at. So if it's early, you need to have done enough work so at least the story is, you know, a 1-page written document plus visual imagery. You know, it's great to be able to see your visual references. It's also really great if you have some comparison shows. And so, and if you can identify what networks they've been playing on, that's even more impressive. So there's both sort of, you know, what is the story in a very succinct form, and, you know, at least you've got a really good 1-paragraph synopsis. Ideally, you know, a 1 to 1.5 page outline would be great. You know, and if you've got an idea of sort of what it's going to feel like in terms of tone, style, who the creators are behind it, and then an idea of where it sits in terms of audience, then that's, you know, and ideally keeping it under 10 pages.
Yeah,
it's, you know, not easy to do.
absolutely. So some people ask about whether you should be sending scripts in, or whether it's like absolutely essential to have scripts written before you're pitching a project. What's your feeling about that?
I think if you're at the stage of, you know, you've got this opportunity to go to market, you've got something that isn't too far away. I mean, if it's sort of like the script is a year away, then it's too early. But if you are close to finishing a script that you feel like will be ready to be shared, then I think it's fine to share the pitch document, say the script is coming not too far away. Because it's also, you know, it's really helpful to get that early feedback as well. So I don't mind in certain circumstances reading things early, but it is frustrating if you're reading something that's, you know, kind of super Germanic idea and you just want to put it out there and see if it, you know, lights a fire with anybody, and actually that kind of deeper development work hasn't yet been done at all, then it's really hard for us to be able to engage with that properly.
Yeah. Aaron's asked, is there any details that you shouldn't put in a pitch? Like what's not useful to put in there?
Sometimes I've seen people put it in, you know what, I reckon I did this early on as well. Sometimes they put in comments or, you know, pullouts from script reports or other things that other people have said about the projects. As lovely as that is, and you should feel super proud of that feedback, and I know it's great, it tends to gets in the way of going, well, you know, it's not something that is really kind of useful in being able to assess the project for us. So I wouldn't recommend that you put in anything in terms of comments from script reports or comments from other producers or networks, or, you know, that kind of feedback. I wouldn't formalize it into a pitch document. There might be ways to be able to just mention it as you're talking. So that would be one thing. I've also, the other thing I've had sometimes is people do things like, I had sort of a pitch document recently where they had put a suggestion of what it might look, you know, an article about the project. It was very confusing. So it was sort of like a, you know, a kind of hype reel pretend PR campaign. I think doing any of those things are a bit wacky and probably not helpful. So, you know, I do think keeping it fairly simple is important, and just being truthful as well.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So you shouldn't be lying about the fact that you've got the rights to something if you don't. Like if you haven't actually optioned book, don't pretend you do. And I suppose also you want to be clear that you've thought about who the audience for your project, whether it's a film, TV series, whatever it is, that, you know, who is going to love it, and so what that connection with audience will be, why people will actually watch
and
it.
Also, yes, absolutely. And where does that audience live? Really thinking about that pathway to market, you know, are they actually a very young audience? And so, you know, then they're only on certain platforms. Is this actually, you know, is it a theatrical film, and is there a theatrical pathway to it still, which, you know, is more and more specialized? But yeah, thinking about where who the audience is, but also doing your research on where that audience lives as much as you can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Two more questions around the same thing. It's because people are always really anxious about, what do you put in the initial document? It feels, super important, which it is. Would you put anything in about the budget, even an estimated budget, or if you had any, potential finance already discussed with anybody, would you put that in?
Yeah, I think if you've got an estimate that you feel reasonably confident about in terms of, we think that the project will, can be made for between X and X, we're aiming at X budget, and making sure that kind of, makes sense for the project, then that's helpful to know. But, would only be if you sort of feel reasonably confident in that number. If you're feeling like you're really actually a bit unsure and you need some market feedback, then, that's something that you can discuss. So I'd only put it in if you're feeling confident on the numbers. In terms of other partners, I personally wouldn't put it into the document unless they're actually on board. So if you're just at the stage of just having conversations and you've got good feedback, then that's a really good thing to say verbally. But unless they're actually formally attached to the project and there is a deal that has been done, then I would be cautious. And likewise, in terms of cast attachments, you can put, aspirational cast ideas into a pitch document, absolutely, but you've got to be very clear between what is an aspirational casting idea versus an attached name. But you can, again, verbally say, look, we are actually in genuine conversation with, X, or the script is in front of the agent of X, and we're waiting to see whether it will kind of, get past the gatekeeper. Those kind of things are really absolutely fine to do in the verbal pitch.
Yeah, in the verbal pitch. Yeah, but possibly not in the actual document.
I wouldn't put it, because also those things can change very rapidly. You can send the document and then the next day you get a pass. And if the reason that they are very excited about this is, because so-and-so has been mentioned, and then actually, when you next pick up the phone to them to discuss the project, you go, actually, they passed on it just yesterday. It sort of, puts a taint on the conversations. So,
you also run the
people do pull out things.
You also run the risk of, if that producer really hates that actor and you've put that actor in your show. Fine.
I mean, I personally, we do take that risk quite often in terms of putting forward casting ideas.
Yeah,
we do. We're careful about it, but if we've got sort of particular casting ideas in mind, then it's a useful way to be able to get some market feedback. But sometimes you'll run the risk of pairing up people who actually turns out they don't like each other very much and they're never going to work together.
I guess a scenario that happens to early career producers is that they will pitch to a network or in fact a streaming platform who will invariably say to them, unless they have a whole lot of credits already or runs on the board in some way, oh, we really like your idea, but we want you to partner with another production company. That's one of the most common scenarios that people have to face at this sort of early stage of their careers, because we're talking millions and millions of dollars of risk, and most streaming platforms and broadcasters are very risk averse because they're businesses. They don't want to be giving millions of dollars away to unproved companies or producers. So you are likely to get people referred to you, aren't you, from, for example, a broadcaster may say to someone, well, we really like your idea, but we think you need to, work with another production company for your first production. And here's some companies that we think could be a good fit. And Jungle may well be one of the people that they might say, right? That's something that you probably would include in your pitch document. If the ABC said, we really like your idea, but you need to go and get a production company to work with you. Do you think?
Yeah. I mean, I would probably put that in the covering letter, but yes, if you're at the stage where you've got confirmed interest and, that's substantially far along in the conversation. So yes, we've had projects referred to us like that from from broadcasters and networks.
Yeah.
And in that case, yes, if it's really substantial, you can put it in. It's just
Mm.
more if you're having, you know, looser conversations that might suggest that you're further along than you actually are. That can be just somewhat distracting to
So
what
no
the pitch
fibbing.
is.
No lying.
No.
No. She'll get found out because Bridget probably knows the person at the ABC that you've claimed has committed to your series.
Well, it's true, because that's the next thing you do when you do receive that. You go, oh, good, so-and-so's interested. And then you pick up the phone to them and have a chat about it.
Mm-hmm.
Usually, you know, you would talk to the producer first, but, you know, some of these network execs we're talking to pretty regularly. So they might, and sometimes they even ring us before we've kind of got there and go, what do you think? Yeah. But, you know, a lot of that you can put into the cover note as well.
Yeah, and so I would also say that your cover email or your cover letter, whatever it is that you write, that you're sending with the, do people send hard copy things too much anymore, or is it all by email? Do you get anything?
It's all by email.
No? How would you feel?
No, somebody tried the other day. I think at the moment with everyone working partly remotely and, you know,
get lost.
It could get lost. I mean, no, we still have mail coming into Jungle, but I wouldn't recommend it unless the only other kind of exception to that is if it's, you know, a book that is hard to get hold of, and, you know, or sometimes it's nice to have the hard copy if there's a book. But generally in terms of scripts, I wouldn't recommend it. We read everything. I read actually everything on a Kindle now, so it's a bit annoying if we get a hard copy.
Okay, that's fantastic, Bridget. Thank you so much. I know we've kept Bridget longer than we said we would. So does anybody have any last minute questions for her? Otherwise, we'll hang on, say goodbye. And someone's put in, there's just a thank you from Susan Austin in the chat. Anybody else want to do a last question before we say goodbye to Bridget? No? Okay, all right. Look, you know, on behalf of SPA and Afters, thank you so much for giving us your time and your words of wisdom. And see you soon.
Thanks, Bridget.
Good luck, everybody. Have a wonderful time at the conference. I hope I might see you there.
Hope to see you there.
Not this year, definitely next year. Okay, bye.
Bridge.
And I guess if there's any other, you know, last minute questions now, you've got like a couple of minutes. If anyone has anything else they want to ask, put it in now. Right. Was there anything else, Brad, that you saw in the questions that we missed?
Look, quite honestly, it's been brilliant presentations from all four of you, and certainly I think the day-to-day interaction advice that you've given is extremely important. And I would say, know your time, know your place, and follow all your suggestions. That was worth gold, as well as obviously the market aspect that Michelle went over.
Oh yeah, so there's been a question and answer in the about accommodation.
Yeah, so that's on the drop down on the about page of the Screen Forever website. Look, I know there's cheaper options around, especially if you're a student or have to watch the budget. Well, not that we don't all have to watch the budget. I know Griffith Uni sometimes have places in their dorms available, which is pretty basic, but it's livable and not too far away. So I would suggest for cheaper options than what's found on the tag link, please Google the Gold Coast. You know, look, and if there's 2 or 3 of you going, you know, there might be options to share as well on Airbnb or something. So yes, just be a little bit creative. I think my advice would be there.
Yeah, just don't don't stay hours away, because you really want to be able to be there early. You want to be able to stay till the end every day, get your money's worth from your ticket, and then not have to travel sort of an hour at the end of either day. You know, be as close as you can. Victoria's asked, where on the website do we see the attendees and their info? And I think that's in the event hub, but it's not live yet. Is that right?
Amy, maybe you could just jump back in. Oh, there she is.
Hi, preemptive strike. So as we were talking about before, in the event hub, and I'll share my screen just so you can see it.
Just your microphone, Amy?
Is unmuted.
No, it's just quiet. Sorry.
Okay.
There you go.
So if you look at the Event Hub, as you remember, there was the download full program, domestic market opportunities, global, and frequently asked questions. Scroll down past your agenda, past the music and the chat. You'll find a delegates list here and the ability to book one-on-one meetings here. These are not active at the moment yet. They'll be made active once the industry market goes live on the 10th of March, but it will be in your Event Hub.
Great. Everything's in the Event Hub. I love it.
Yes. So good luck, everybody, and we'll see you there. I'll be there. There's quite a few people from Afters going, so if you want to talk to anybody else about studying with us at some stage, grab one of us. Our CEO, Nell, will be there. Peter Herbert, who's our head of screen business and runs the MSAB, will be there. Our head of producing, Lynn Norfor, will be there. And they're also all like super experienced practitioners and people who they're going there to sort of meet you and have chats. So grab them and have chats. So who else is going? Oh, and also we've got a couple of panels that we're hosting, and I'm going to give a plug for one of them because it's about virtual production. It's emceed by Krista Jordan, who's the head of our animation area, but she's like super knowledgeable about virtual production, and if it's something that you really need to know about, so go to that panel. That's it, plug from Afters. Thanks guys for coming, and thanks Michelle and Brad.
If I can just quickly say too that sort of I'm always available to troubleshoot if there's any problems, especially on the ground, but please email me. I'll have it on my phone. I'll have my laptop there. Don't try and send it by the info@ email address. Send it direct to me. And while I can't sort of make introductions as such, sometimes I can ease the way in other areas. So just let me know on the ground, and we'll look forward to seeing you all there. It's very exciting.
Thank you, everyone. You'll find me in the marquee. All right. Thanks, everyone. See you there.
Bye.
Bye.